A lot of people have pointed out that she was actually married before.
She's like, no one knows who she is.
She wanted freedom. She wanted reinvention. She wanted a clean slate.
Smells like Rio down south.
But before Meghan Markle ever became the Duchess of Sussex, reports suggest she was already hiding a marriage, and possibly a child, that the world was never meant to know about.
Meghan Markle has married not 2 but 3 times.
And the family at the center of it, the Giulianos of Chicago, 1994, made sure it stayed buried.
She gets noticed by Prince Harry. She lands the gorilla. She marries him. She wrests him away from his family.
According to whispers close to the family, it was a modest Las Vegas chapel, no cameras, no red carpets, no star-studded guest list.
The husband, Joe, he actually accused Meghan Markle of being infertile.
Just a young Meghan, not yet famous, standing beside Joe Giuliano, a first husband who never became a public name because within months, the Giulianos decided he shouldn't. What followed was not a divorce splashed across tabloids, but a quiet erasure, sealed papers, sudden silence, and a family that disappeared overnight.
That girl's an idiot.
Viewers today might ask, if it was only a youthful mistake, why hide it so completely? Why move an entire family into the shadows? That's the contradiction still haunting Meghan's origin story. To understand it, you have to understand who Joe Giuliano was. Sources familiar with the family describe him as reserved, deeply rooted in Chicago's Italian-American traditions, a man raised on Sunday dinners and unwavering loyalty. Meghan, by contrast, was already dreaming of Los Angeles. She reportedly spoke of auditions and visibility more than family dinners, of ambition more than tradition.
And that was the main reason why he annulled the marriage. Because Meghan Markle, yes, she is so deceptive. She's such a liar.
At first, the Giulianos thought it was youthful energy, but as one acquaintance put it, she didn't talk about building a home. She talked about being seen to a family that valued privacy above all. That difference was more than cultural. It was threatening. And then came the rumors that turned unease into rupture. According to those who claim to have known the Giulianos, timelines around Meghan's age, graduation year, and personal history didn't add up. Joe's mother, they say, noticed discrepancies. Dates that didn't align with school records, a supposed graduation year that contradicted what her classmates recalled. Some whispers went further, suggesting she was older than she claimed. If true, it would mean that Meghan's relationship with Joe wasn't the naive teenage romance it appeared to be, but a calculated step into something else entirely. The Giulianos, protective and traditional, reportedly felt deceived. The fallout came quickly. Meghan began skipping family dinners. Joe's father is said to have told her, "That's not what marriage is," when she insisted she wanted more than Chicago could offer. Tension grew, and within months the marriage ended not with a bang, but with a burial, an annulment quietly filed, sealed away, and a family that issued an unspoken warning, never ask questions. By the time neighbors noticed the porch lights never came back on and the curtains stayed drawn, the Giulianos were gone. Chicago had lost one of its families, and Meghan had gained something else, the silence she needed to reinvent herself. But even silence leaves an echo. And nearly 3 decades later, that echo is being heard again. The Giulianos could have let it end quietly. A short-lived teenage marriage, annulled, forgotten. But according to those who claim to have been close at the time, it was what came next that turned a family rift into a generational silence. Just months after that Las Vegas ceremony, whispers say Meghan discovered she was pregnant. For most families, that moment would have been cause for joy. For the Giulianos, it was a crossroads. They were deeply traditional, private to the point of secrecy, and they valued reputation above all else. And so, instead of celebration, insiders suggest an agreement was made, one that would reshape every life in that household. Reports say there was no shouting, no courtroom battles. Instead, it was something quieter and heavier, an understanding. The Giulianos would raise the child. Meghan would move on. No paperwork that the public could trace, no hospital records with her name attached, no tabloid rumors to follow her into Hollywood. As one alleged acquaintance later put it, it wasn't a divorce, it was a burial. Everyone involved agreed to disappear it by mid-1995. Neighbors in Chicago noticed something unusual. A baby at Giuliano gatherings who was introduced only as a relative's child. Never explained, never named publicly. People whispered, but no one asked questions twice. Behind closed doors, Joe Giuliano reportedly stepped into fatherhood while Meghan stepped out. She left for college, for auditions, for Los Angeles. According to sources, she never looked back. For the Giulianos, it wasn't just abandonment, it was betrayal. She didn't walk away from Joe, one friend of the family allegedly said years later. She walked away from motherhood. To protect their own, the Giulianos made what some described as a pact of silence. Meghan would be free to chase her ambition, the family would guard the child, and the story would never see daylight. But secrets don't stay still.
Could this be possible that Meghan Markle, she threatened Joe to take to the court?
Neighbors recalled the Giuliano household becoming more insular after 1995. Porch lights that no longer came on, curtains that stayed shut, a phone line that suddenly stopped working. Then, as quickly as the whispers had begun, they ended. One morning, a moving truck appeared. Within hours, it was gone. So were the Giulianos. Official records left no trace, but word spread locally that the family had relocated, possibly even overseas. It was like they evaporated, said one neighbor years later. One day they were there, the next, nothing but an empty house. For Meghan, the silence became her shield. For the Giulianos, it became their inheritance. But that silence also fueled speculation. Why would an entire family uproot their lives and vanish if the marriage had simply ended? Why protect an annulment with exile? And why had Meghan never once acknowledged the name Joe Giuliano? Those questions, unanswered for nearly 3 decades, are now resurfacing, and with them comes the chilling possibility that the Giulianos weren't just guarding their reputation. They were protecting a child who had never been meant to exist publicly. By the late 1990s, Meghan Markle appeared to be just another ambitious college student, enrolling at Northwestern University with dreams of acting and global recognition. But according to those who claim to have seen the Giuliano story unfold, her path wasn't cleared by luck alone. Whispers from Chicago at the time suggest that when the annulment was finalized, money exchanged hands. Some insist the Giulianos paid to keep Meghan's record spotless, ensuring no shadow of scandal followed her. Others speculate Meghan herself had motivation to seal the documents, protecting her own image before stepping into the competitive worlds of theater and television. Either way, the outcome was undeniable: a clean slate. Legal experts who have reviewed similar cases point out that routine annulments rarely vanish so completely. You might seal a record, but you don't erase it, one commentator explained. The Giuliano files are different. They're buried, like someone wanted them gone. That detail has fueled decades of speculation. If this was just a youthful mistake, why would it require such extraordinary measures? Reports suggest there may have been written agreements, conditions that neither side would ever speak publicly, not about the marriage, not about a child, not about what went wrong. For Meghan, that silence became the foundation of her next chapter. For the Giulianos, it became a wound that never healed. As Meghan's Hollywood career slowly gathered momentum, from small roles to the breakout success of Suits, the Giuliano whispers remained buried, but insiders claim the family never forgot. According to one acquaintance, Joe's father once remarked privately, "She wanted the world. We gave her silence." Those words, though never spoken publicly, underline the fracture. The Giulianos had traded their presence for her freedom. Meghan, in turn, carried on as though Joe and his family had never existed. The contrast between her public image, self-made, modern, open, and the private story whispered in Chicago was striking. And then came the detail that continues to unsettle online sleuths today. The daughter. If the Giuliano family truly raised a child born in 1995, that woman would now be 30 years old.
Though, would it be lovely to go and churn your own butter? Sure, maybe. I don't have time for that. I don't have time for that.
Speculation has occasionally surfaced online, with fans claiming to have spotted inconsistencies in Meghan's timeline or pointing to photos of unknown relatives at distant family events. Nothing has ever been confirmed, and no credible evidence has surfaced publicly. Still, the absence itself fuels curiosity. As one blogger noted, when there's silence this deep, it usually means there's something to protect. Whether or not a daughter exists, the secrecy surrounding the annulment ensures the question will never fully go away. This is the paradox Meghan's critics fixate on. The Duchess, who now champions transparency and authenticity, may have built her empire on a foundation of buried truths. Hollywood embraced her as fresh, unblemished, and self-made. But Chicago remembers differently, and the Giuliano silence, still unbroken after nearly 3 decades, speaks louder than any denial. For years, the Giulianos were simply gone. Neighbors in Chicago remembered the day clearly. A moving truck pulling up one morning, the porch lights never turning back on, curtains left drawn in an empty house. Within hours, the family had vanished. No forwarding address, no explanations, no trail to follow. It wasn't the kind of slow fade people expect after a marriage ends. It was an erasure. Like they evaporated, one neighbor recalled. One day they were there, the next it was just silence. That silence became the family's new identity, and for Meghan, it was the clean break she needed. But whispers filled the void. Reports circulated locally that before the Giulianos left, word spread through private circles. Anyone who asked too many questions risked legal trouble. It wasn't anger that drove this warning, people said. It was fear. Fear that the truth they had buried could resurface. The image of an Italian-American family uprooting everything and disappearing overnight became its own kind of folklore in Chicago. And the timing mattered. Meghan was preparing for college, about to build a future far from Chicago, far from Joe Giuliano, and far from any paper trail that could connect her back. The Giulianos' silence bought her freedom, but it also left a haunting gap. What secret was so dangerous that an entire family had to disappear to protect it? Insiders, who have broken their silence in recent years, suggest the answer lies in the child. "We didn't hide her secret to protect a lie," one voice reportedly said. "We hid it to protect a child." It's a statement that raises more questions than it answers. Was there really a daughter? If so, where is she now? Some speculate the Giulianos raised her abroad, shielding her from press and questions. Others claim she may have been absorbed into the extended family, living under a different name, her existence erased from official records. No photographs, no school listings, no public trace. For those who lived near the Giulianos at the time, the mystery of the relative's child remains the most unsettling detail. And as Meghan's fame grew, the silence only became more conspicuous.
And from that time onward, you see her having kids, having future plan with Harry, moving to US, making a lot of major decisions that you would probably not see her doing when she was with other husband, Joey and Trevor.
By the time she married Prince Harry in 2018, commentators noted how little verifiable detail existed about her early adult years. While friends from Northwestern and colleagues from Hollywood came forward, Joe Giuliano's name never surfaced. Not in tabloids, not in interviews, not in family accounts. The absence was almost too perfect. "It's not what you see that matters," one critic remarked. "It's what you don't." That's why the Giuliano story has gripped the imagination of fans online. Because every time Meghan insists she built her life from nothing, the shadow of a family who vanished says otherwise. Now, nearly 30 years later, the question lingers louder than ever. What truth was worth disappearing for? And if the Giulianos kept silent all these years, why are whispers beginning to resurface now? For Meghan Markle, the Giuliano years have never officially existed. In her narrative, life begins with Los Angeles, Northwestern, and Hollywood. The story is one of resilience, independence, and a woman who built herself from nothing. And yet, for those who knew Joe Giuliano, that version of events feels incomplete. His family may have disappeared, but the silence they left behind tells its own story. 30 years later, whispers of a vanished marriage, a sealed record, and a daughter shielded from the public eye continue to haunt Meghan's legacy. The timing could not be sharper. In recent years, Meghan and Prince Harry have fought a relentless public battle over image, privacy, and authenticity. Every interview, from Oprah to Netflix, has leaned heavily on the idea that Meghan's story is transparent, that nothing is hidden, which is why the Giuliano whispers sting so deeply for critics. "You can't sell authenticity while living behind sealed records," one commentator noted. Fans online echoed that sentiment, some posting side-by-side comparisons of Meghan's polished public timeline against rumors of her erased past. The contradiction has become a lightning rod, fueling speculation that no matter how carefully she reinvents herself, the past will always resurface. The industry consequences are harder to ignore. Reports suggest that streaming executives and studio insiders now factor Meghan's unresolved history into their risk assessments. Not because of confirmed facts, none exist publicly, but because of the speculation itself. "Hollywood doesn't like gaps," one insider explained. "A mystery that refuses to die is harder to control than a scandal that can be explained." Meghan's brand depends on controlling her story. The Giuliano silence is the one thread she doesn't control. And in an era when authenticity sells, that silence could become more costly than any tabloid headline. For ordinary fans, the Giuliano saga has become less about Meghan specifically and more about a bigger cultural pattern. They see in her story the same questions asked of other celebrities who reinvented themselves. What gets erased along the way? What family ties are abandoned? And what truths are sacrificed to create a new image? Whether it's old Hollywood stars who changed their names, or pop icons who rewrote their early histories, reinvention is nothing new, but Meghan's version carries an extra sting. Because if the Giuliano whispers are true, it isn't just about names or dates. It's about a child, a family, and a silence that reshaped 3 decades of lives. And maybe that's why this story won't die, because people sense that in Meghan's rush to build her future, she left something behind that could never truly be buried. A first husband, a vanished family, a secret that even crowns and cameras can't erase. If Meghan Markle's erased marriage is the story that keeps echoing, what happens when silence finally breaks? Subscribe now so you're here when the next chapter drops.